Well, let's turn now our attention to the other big story happening in the US today. The director of the US Secret Service, Kimberly Cheatle, is facing questions at a congressional hearing over the failed assassination attempt against Donald Trump on July the 13th. There have been calls for her to resign following allegations that top agency officials repeatedly denied requests for additional resources and protection for Mr. Trump. In her opening statement, Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle offered an apology and said that lessons will be learned.
The assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump on July 13th is the most significant operational failure of the Secret Service in decades, and I am keeping him and his family in my thoughts. I would like to offer my sincerest condolences to the family of Corey Comparator, a former fire chief and a hero who was killed in this senseless shooting. I would also like to acknowledge those who were injured in Butler, David Dutch and James Copenhagen, and I wish them a speedy recovery. The Secret Service's solemn mission is to protect our nation's leaders. On July 13th, we failed. As a director of the United States Secret Service, I take full responsibility for any security lapse of our agency. We are fully cooperating with ongoing investigations. We must learn what happened, and I will move heaven and earth to ensure that an incident like July 13th does not happen again.
To Democratic strategist Hillary Rosen, who's still with us. Thank you very much for staying on, Hillary, to talk about this. She's been facing some really harsh questions, hasn't she, from the committee. She's talking about how perhaps they cut corners, talking about when it came to resources, a question about whether enough resources were given to Donald Trump's team or not. She said they weren't denied any resources, but a few question marks were left over that answer, weren't there?
Well, there were, and what people need to understand is that the Trump team and some of his advocates are saying that they had made requests of the Secret Service for additional resources and were denied. There's not much, there hasn't been much response from the Secret Service other than to say that that wasn't true, but we haven't seen letters or anything in writing. We haven't seen any proof one way or another. And so I don't think the director did herself any favors today by not clearing that up more specifically. Look, you know, this is one of those instances where a terrible tragedy happened and somebody's got to be accountable. And at this point, that's the director of the Secret Service. And, you know, Congress is just very good at making these kinds of moments very high drama and very high pitched, partisan and ugly. And I think even though you saw a lot of Democrats today taking on the Secret Service director, really, I don't think that the Republicans who are in charge of the House are going to let this go. I don't really see a path forward for her. There needs to be an investigation, but she probably is going to end up having to resign.
Well, she did refer to that investigation quite a lot, didn't she, in terms of when she wasn't able to answer the questions put to her. And there's strong questions coming from both sides, actually, weren't there? And at the beginning, Chairman James Comer said that he was of the firm belief that she should resign. And she said that she thinks that she is the best person to be leading the Secret Service at this time. Do you think that at this time is a suggestion that she may reconsider that after these investigations have been completed?
Well, I think, you know, having counseled a lot of politicians in these situations, you always think you're going to get through the heat. But the truth is that these things follow you, and it's very, very hard to recover. We've seen this time and time again. You know, Boris Johnson couldn't get past Partygate. Joe Biden couldn't get past the debate. I don't think that that Kim Cheatle is going to be any different. It is very hard to change a story like this when there's been an assassination attempt under your watch.
It raises a lot of questions, obviously. Primarily, I suppose, one of the questions is this: the information sharing and the working together of the Secret Service and the local police force, and the differences in what was being said by both, and this coordination, doesn't it? That's a key issue here.
Well, the Secret Service is a federal police force, and what they do is they technically have authority when they go into a community to have local police report into them and secure sites where a protected person is going to be. But what happened right after the shooting was that the Secret Service director tried to blame the local police and saying that guarding that part of the perimeter where the shooter was actually the local police's responsibility. The local police chief came back and said, whoa, wait a minute, you guys were in charge. You should have told us specifically where this was going to be and how this should have been handled. And so I don't think it ever does well when you try and pass the buck like that.
Okay, well, thank you so much for talking to us. I really appreciate your time. That's a Democratic strategist, Hillary Rosen, talking to us there. And just to let you know, there's plenty more, of course, on our live page. Go to the BBC website covering this US Secret Service Director, Kimberly Cheatle, who's facing those questions at the House committee. So do go to the BBC website for all the latest updates there. And stay with us here on BBC News.